Trump gets a giant Supreme Court win. Wait, I thought you just said he lost this weekend. Yeah. Welcome to Doug in Exile as we give you the ins and outs of Trump and the Supreme Court. He's allowed to deport some illegal aliens. We're going to break it out for you. This is the third of 4 videos today. If you're in the Quad Club, it just means you just put Quad Club down in the chat. You just go, hey, put 4X down there. It shows me that you're on board for 4 videos because the last video today, I've got such a huge pileup of news. It's going to be this giant with 8 million different topics. This one is just on the Supreme Court. Welcome. Subscribe if you like this kind of news. Here's the headlines. So I just went, as you guys know, I do this kind of smattering of Supreme Court headlines so you can see the overview of what they're all saying. This is the New York Times from 35 minutes ago. Supreme Court lets Trump lift deportation protections for Venezuelans, though it's not just Venezuelans. I'll give you some of the other countries. Supreme Court allows Trump to revoke protected status for thousands of Venezuelans. Remember, this protected status, the TPS, temporary protective status, was put up under Biden to protect them from being deported. And now the Supreme Court says he can remove it. Supreme Court sides with Trump for now on Biden era TPS, temporary protected status protections for Venezuelans. Supreme Court allows Trump administration to strip protections from some Venezuelans. That's one way of putting it. You're getting your protection stripped. Protections provided by Biden. Supreme Court will allow Trump administration to end TPS program. Supreme Court lets Trump strip Venezuelan migrants of protected status. Supreme Court allows Trump to strip Venezuelans' temporary legal status over Jackson, that's Ketanji Brown Jackson dissent. We're going to get into the vote, what the split is on the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court allows Trump to strip protections from some Venezuelans. Deportations could follow. This is good news to me because on the last one, when I said, Trump got bad news, the bad news came from the Aliens Act, where the Supreme Court said it doesn't apply to his deportations. And I said, that's not the only grounds on which Trump could start deportations. That's just one ground that the Supreme Court says does not apply. Well, in this case, they found another way around it because there's about 100 reasons why you can deport an illegal alien. And that was just one of them on deporting those gang members. And it did not apply to Trump, according to the Supreme Court, though I think they were wrong. Judge Napolitano, this is posted by Devery Darkins.
We're learning the Supreme Court today did give the Trump administration the green light to revoke special legal protections for thousands of Venezuelan immigrants. This was the High Court granting an emergency application filed by the administration. Let's bring in senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano to weigh in on both of these rulings, impactful when it comes to immigration. There was an 8-page unsigned opinion where basically saying you can't use this Alien Enemies Act. Okay, put that aside. But now today they're giving the Trump administration to revoke legal protections for thousands of Venezuelan immigrants. So it seems like they're split a little bit on this protective status program, and that would actually help the administration deporting illegals here.
Okay, so let me try and untangle this. On the Alien Enemies Act, the Supreme Court, by a vote of 7-2, 3 weeks ago, said to the president, you can use this act, but you have to give everybody that you want to deport under the act a hearing. Why? This isn't the Supreme Court making this up. The act says everybody's entitled to a hearing. Because the administration has not been given those people hearings, the Supreme Court has said, okay, you can't use the act by a 7-2. That's the one from which Justices Alito and Thomas dissented. About 5 minutes ago, the Supreme Court said the decision to grant temporary protective status is up to the discretion of the President of the United States.
And because of that temporary status, because it was offered by the President of the United States when Biden did it, Trump, as the President of the United States, has the same power to revoke it.
President Biden decided to grant temporary protective status to 350,000 Venezuelans. President Trump has the authority to ungrant that protected status. He can go ahead and ungrant it. So that's what the Supreme Court ruled 5 minutes ago. You win some, you lose some. You lose some, you win some.
It's going to be very hard to deport all of these illegals with all of this legal mumbo jumbo that Trump has to do just to get rid of people that came here illegally. But this is technically good news, a technical win for Trump on it's not just the Venezuelans. Let me get to more here with Jonathan Turley. You guys know I really dig this guy, a Fox News proponent, always gives the best, I think, legal opinion on the matter. The Supreme Court delivered a win for the administration today by lifting the injunction on the move to terminate temporary protective status, TPS, protected of hundreds of thousands of people allowed into the country by Biden from, so it's not just Venezuela, it's Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. A California district judge had blocked the move, and the Ninth Circuit refused to lift the injunction. It will now go back to the Ninth Circuit for the resolution of the merits. Only Justice Jackson, Ketanji Brown Jackson, dissented. Notably, while the statute states that the special status could be assigned on a case-by-case basis, the Biden administration unlawfully adopted a wholesale policy granting temporary parole to hundreds of thousands of individuals from 4 countries. That's Cuba and Haiti. Yet, the district court would have required case-by-case determinations with no end to the status. The administration was open about its desire to remove these individuals before they accrued over 2 years of contentious presence, as that would trigger a longer removal process. The language underlying the special status is highly deferential to the government, that is, to the president. Finally, here's the actual document showing it. The Supreme Court has ruled 8-1. That is, I can't tell you how significant this is, 8-1. That's a smearing in favor of Trump. So if you're going like, I know that we were calling some of those justices cowards, Kavanaugh, Justice Gorsuch, John Roberts, for not going with Trump. Well, now, and Amy Coney Barrett, now you have 7, including 2 of the most liberal judges. Sotomayor joined Justice Roberts. Kagan joined Justice Roberts, and only Ketanji Brown Jackson is the one holdout that went against this. That's an 8-1 ruling. That is super significant. Quick, I just have part of the document here, just the big ticket stuff. Here's the Secretary of Homeland Security announces termination of the 2023 designation of Venezuela for a temporary protected status. So that thing has been removed now. Here's, this is regarding Secretary Noem. So Kristi Noem, this is the application for the stay presented to Justice Kagan and by her referred to the court is granted March 31st, 2025. That's last month. Order entered by the U.S. State District Court for the Northern District of California is stayed pending the disposition of the appeal in the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit and disposition of a petition for a writ of certiorari. In such a writ is timely sought. Should certiorari be denied, this stay shall terminate automatically. Noting action down here at the bottom, Justice Jackson should deny the application. That, of course, was reversed. Trump gets his way. They are now deporting Venezuelans because that temporary protected status is gone. At least 300,000 of them, some Cubans, Nicaraguans. This is a huge win for Trump. And the 8 of the 9 Supreme Court justices support Trump. So that's pretty good news, guys. I'm Doug in Exile.